What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got news of Starter Deck 14. The reveal cycle has started for Starter Deck 14. We've got some cards to talk about, and this is actually really important, because this is one of those starter decks that brings in new mechanics. And when we have a starter deck that brings in new mechanics, we see the leader, and then we're like, oh, cool. Like the first time we saw Sakazuki, you may trash one card from your hand to KO up to one of your opponent's characters at a cost of 0. This was a leader from Starter Deck 6. And when we see this, we're like, there aren't any cost 0 characters. But then, of course, we have a bunch of characters and event cards in black that lower cost. It's one of the things that they do. You turn a character into a cost 0 and you're like, oh yeah. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And then, when we saw Charlotte Linlin from Starter Deck 7, the first yellow leader we'd seen, it's talking about adding cards on the top and bottom of your life to your hand, and then adding card from your hand to your top of your life. That's a bit less explanation, to be honest, but it was still weird and unusual. And that's the kind of thing we've got going on here. We saw the leader Luffy the other day, and look, I'm telling you that these are the first reveals from the starter deck. If you want to be pedantic, yes, okay, fine, the leader was the first reveal from the starter deck. But what I mean is, they showed us that, but now they're actually starting to show us the characters. They're starting to basically explain how the deck works, which we very much need. Because when we saw Luffy the other day, we saw this character, just ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, monocolor character, 5,000 power, 5 life, all very standard. And we got Don X1, and it gives all of your characters +1 cost. And then if you've got an 8 cost or higher character on your field, the leader gets 1,000 extra power. Which is cool. You're raising cost. Why are you raising cost? Well, we got a Nami and an Usopp we can have a little bit of a look at here, which will start to explain it a little bit more. Now, Nami is one of the designated super rares from the starter deck, so we expect it to be a decent card. And what we've got is free cost, 2,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and you've got blocker. And it's Straw Hat Crew as its traits. And straight off the bat, blocker is fine. It's not a great blocker. It's a free cost blocker, which isn't perfect. And it's only got 2,000 power. It's all right. I'm not saying it's particularly good, because honestly, it's pretty weak and it's a bit expensive for the caliber of blocker we've got. But it's okay. Like, if you just want a black blocker, Fukuro is way better because you've got, again, it's a free cost, but you got an extra 1,000 power and it cannot be KO'd by effects. Clearly a better option here. Or you could go for Hideo from OP04, which is only a 2 cost, as an example. So look, we've got better options if you're just looking for a blocker. But that's not all we have here. We also have a second skill on play if you have a character of a cost of 8 or more in play, and you have 6 or fewer cards in hand, draw a card. This is nice. You're drawing a card on play, and that's good. One Piece has draw power, but it's not up there with games like Pokemon in terms of, having really great draw power. So drawing an extra card here or there can be a good thing, and now you've got a free cost 2,000 power blocker, which is not as good as some other blockers around, as I've shown you, but the fact that you get to draw a card when you play it, that basically makes a difference. That's what turns it from a very disappointing blocker, I can do better, to, you know what, this isn't too bad. Plus, of course, the ones I showed you a minute ago aren't actually Straw Hat Crew, so if you're looking for a Straw Hat Crew, yeah, you're going to want to be going for this one. But my point is, the drawing is pretty good. But this is where it tells us a bunch about the starter deck. And that's really the point of looking at these early reveals, is trying to figure out where the starter deck's going. You need to have an 8 cost or higher character in play. Which is interesting, of course, because that is the same threshold, so to speak, that the leader Luffy needed to get that extra 1,000 power. If you've got an 8 cost or higher in play, Luffy gets 1,000 power. If you've got an 8 cost or higher in play, then Nami gets to draw you a card. And it's not too bad. It does have to be 6 or fewer cards in hand, because I don't want to get ridiculous hand sizes. We've seen that a bunch in the game. But, just play a few cards. You'll be fine. The interesting thing here is, well, twofold, right? Firstly, we've got a second card for which the threshold is cost of 8. That's very interesting. Secondly, we need more ways to up the cost here. Because, sure, your leader is going to increase the cost of all your characters by 1. That's lovely. That's a very good start. That cannot be all of it. And look, we've only seen 2 characters so far. I'm going to ruin a surprise. We'll get to Usopp in a minute. It doesn't increase the cost of that card of your characters. So far, it really is a leader Luffy. That's the only one we've got. There's got to be more. Like, when we start looking at black cards, there are so many around that lower the cost of your characters that it really does start getting, well, I mean, almost a little bit silly. Not in a bad way, but, you know, let's take Starter Deck 6. This was, of course, the first black starter deck, right? Well, if we're looking at reducing cost, just in the black starter deck, we've got the Sengoku, reduces character's cost by -4 when attacking. You've got the Tashigi that gives one of your opponent's characters -2 cost for the turn. We've got the Hina that on play gives one of your opponent's characters -4 cost for the turn. The Helmeppo that on play gives one of your opponent's characters -3 cost for the turn. And that's just in the characters. There's, you know, a couple of event cards like Great Eruption, for instance, which will come in as well. That deck was absolutely full of cards that lowered the cost of your opponent's characters so that things like Sengoku's leader skill or Monkey the Garp skill, KOs a 4 cost or less character, comes in as well. There's got to be more in this starter deck than just having the leader Luffy increasing cost. I think it's a good start, but it's not enough. But then again, in Starter Deck 6, we saw a bunch of characters that reduce cost, and we saw a bunch of characters that punished for having lower cost, so it's going to be okay. There are going to be plenty of cards one would imagine in here that are raising cost. Because if we have a look at Usopp here, we're looking at a very similar thing. 3 cost, 4,000 power, counter plus 1,000, nothing amazing. And Don X1, when attacking, if you have a character with a cost of 8 or more, KO up to 1 character of your opponent's with a cost of 4 or less. So once again, we've got another skill, and this is free for free here, just to be clear. That's free for free where you need a character with a cost of 8 or more. There's got to be more things here that are increasing your cost. And yes, of course, you can just play a character with a cost of 8 or more. You can just go ahead and play the Luffy from OP04, and your leader skill puts him from a 7 cost to an 8 cost. Boom, job's a good one. Or you can just jump over all of this and just go straight to an 8 cost. And now, admittedly, there aren't very many, but, you know, things like the Gecko Moria from OP06 is a pretty good card. Or we've got the Kazan that actually lowers cost of all your opponent's characters by 5, but that's a good one. That's one of the best examples of lowering cost over in black. So we've got some decent cards here in black that cost 8 or more that we can just use as is. But I still think there's a lot more to come. My thoughts with what we've seen so far from Starter Deck 14 are, yeah, good start. That's a decent start. We are very much on our way, but I really do think like there is more to come in the future. There are going to be more of these cards where we turn around and go, oh, actually, you know what, if we combine this, and this, and yeah, then actually we end up with, you know, turning what we really want is to be able to turn a 2 or a 3 cost into an 8 cost to start activating these skills. And if that sounds ridiculous, remember, we can easily take like 10 cost characters with black at the moment and bring them down to a 2 or 3 cost to KO. Maybe not easily, but we see it happen all the time. It's absolutely possible. I want it to go the other way, where we can be taking very low cost characters, turning them into 8 cost characters, and then using that to activate some of those skills. I think that's what we're going to get. And for what it's worth, if we're in a situation where we can do that very easily, and again, we don't know yet, unfortunately, but if we are, then this Usopp becomes pretty gosh darn good. It's a 3 cost that when you play it, KO's a 4 cost. That's pretty good. The Nami becomes pretty gosh darn good here, which, you know, you're drawing a card while also having a blocker. That's a pretty good thing. But we can't really judge how good these cards are until we see more of Starter Deck 14. Obviously, as more cards are revealed, I will show them to you, and jobs are good 'un. Right, that's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think of these cards, tell me how excited you are for Starter Deck 14, tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Good us! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.